You are a data engineer. You have to be careful about Bilal because he's going to kill your job.
When I tell them about what we're doing, they're like, "Gosh, this is super exciting. I want to be more effective, and I don't want to wake up at 2 in the morning." You go from being like a light cruiser, you're very agile, very small, but like a single shell can take you out. To now you're on the aircraft carrier, and there's like 50 ships around you. Our goal is that you shouldn't have to be a data engineer to do data engineering.
All right, let's get started. So today we have Bilal with us. Bilal, thank you so much for taking the time to have this discussion. So Bilal, you are senior director doing product management at Databricks. I feel like you have been around at Databricks for like a very, very long time. I think you worked on many products, but mostly like all the ingestion, workload, the transformation, the workflow, and like all the orchestration. I think I remember you on all the work you did for the workflow, the orchestration product at Databricks. So yeah, thanks for being here.
My
Super cool to
pleasure.
have you. So maybe let's start talking about product management at Databricks. Well, basically, what's a senior director of product management? Like, what do you do? How many people are working with you? How does it work?
Okay, excellent. Yeah. So, product management at Databricks is pretty straightforward. I actually think it's one of the most fun jobs we have here at this company. With apologies to the to Quentin and Yusuf. So product management here is pretty straightforward, and what we do is really, I think of it as three things. The first thing we do is we connect deeply with the customer, and we are responsible for understanding the customer needs, both the obvious needs, which customers will sometimes tell us, and then the hidden needs, the latent needs, right? So they tell us, sometimes we have to really double click on what they really, really want. So that's, the first part of our job. And that's really involves spending a lot of time with customers, talking to them, having dinner with them, debugging. Uh, you know, uh, 8 to 10 hours a week with customers is excellent for a product manager. Then what we do is we partner with engineers. So product managers don't write code. We don't own code. So we have to partner with engineering. And ultimately, we are working with engineering to give them clarity and a vision for what to build. So we take these customer requirements, which can be very abstract, right? Then we work with engineering to make them real. And then finally, what product management does is we make the product successful. And this is the vaguest and I think the funnest part of our jobs. And that could be anything. That could be writing documentation. It could be enabling our sales teams. It could be talking to a particular customer and getting them excited about the product. So really, it's all the other things. These are the empty seats in the room. We fill them. And to the second part of your question, I'm lucky. I work with an organization of about 30 product managers or so. Um, and we have an interesting mix of product managers at Databricks. We have product managers who do both classic inbound product management and a couple of other different types of roles as well.
And I'm curious to know how do you balance? I feel like, well, I'm going to take me as example so that I don't, I'm not going to say any customer, but sometimes I feel like when I've been asked, okay, how can we improve the product? I have some kind of a short-term vision, and I feel like most of customers, because they use it daily, they just think about how to improve the product locally. And I suspect that's a lot of the ask you have. But yet, when I see the roadmap you and the PM have, I feel like you somehow always manage to be, like way more
3 years
like
ahead.
in advance. Yeah, 2 years ahead. And I'm wondering, how do you balance that with what the customer is asking, which seems like more, the kind of
Yeah,
daily issue they have
yeah,
versus
yeah. Yeah.
having like a super long term roadmap?
I completely understand. Yeah. So actually, what's funny is since I've been here, I've been lucky to be here for a few years. I've actually seen Databricks get a lot better at this. So when Databricks was a smaller company and our customer base was smaller, we were in fact a bit more, let's call it, uh, more short term, right? We were learning, and if you kind of think about uh, a company has a sort of gradient descents into product market fit. So it's not immediate, it sort of descends into that. So it kind of optimizes. And I think what happens is that as an enterprise software company, we have become a lot more mature. We have a lot more customers than we did 5 years ago. We have a lot more use cases. So what that really means is that we have gotten better at understanding as a product team and as an engineering team. Hey, is this thing going to solve just one use case, or is it going to solve $10 million worth of use cases? So with that said, I will say that even though we're pretty good at it, we pay special attention. There are always a set of customers who are, in fact, let's say we're 2 years ahead or 3 years ahead, they're 5 years ahead. So we do listen specially to them. And the way we do it is we have customer forums where, let's say, for example, startups. Startups are often different from, say, large enterprise companies, and we pay special attention to them because they're doing things that are at the boundary of what's possible. So I think the answer is yes. Broadly speaking, we do what you described, but we also try to make sure we're listening to the next wave.
And as you
Yeah.
just one like as you mentioned, you've been here for quite some time, and you mentioned that you have seen Databricks changing. But is there any other things you have noticed, like, or things has changed for the last couple 3 years, let's say?
Yeah. Yeah. No. So actually, it's interesting what we haven't changed in. Maybe I'll cover that super quickly because I feel like we don't talk about that enough. So what we haven't changed in is customer obsession. We haven't changed in ultimately what our mission is, which has always been the same, which is democratize data and AI. Now, with that said, I think what we've gotten better at understanding the interactions between capabilities. So for example, let's take Unity Catalog, right? Unity Catalog is an incredibly powerful capability for our customers. And as it happens, it touches everything in the platform. If you go all the way down to the Spark engine, it touches that. It touches storage. And it touches, the user interface, right? So I think what I'm pleased about is we've gotten better at understanding these interactions. And these are really, it's a very large number of interactions between all these different components. I'd say we've gotten much better at it than we used to be. We used to sometimes discover these at later stages. I think now we have a better machinery for understanding kind of how does this affect that.
And would you say like it's slowing down the new features and the releases at Databricks?
Actually the secret is sometimes customers tell us we release too much. We have or not too much, maybe that's the wrong phrase. But what they really typically say is, gosh, we have trouble keeping up with your innovation. Now they say this in a very happy voice, but when you ask them, what they're really saying is, hey, give me a bit more control over this. And to give you an example of something we did recently was we added this preview portal, and it's a way for our customers to sign up for previews, turn them on and off, and for account teams to have an interaction with the customers. So customers can say, you know what, I don't want this capability right now. So to answer your question, we're actually incredibly fast at innovation. I do think it's almost like a sea. There are short frequency waves. There are lots of these smaller capabilities that come out. But to be honest, capabilities like Unity come out every 1 or 2 years still. So these large bets like Unity and Mosaic and Lakeflow, they happen every couple of years. But within those years, we have thousands, if not tens of thousands of features that get released still, sort of almost continuously.
Yeah, it's like that's crazy. I feel like it's so many small teams, and everybody's shipping like all year long, and then you get new things. And even for us, within Databricks, sometimes I'm like, oh, it's hard to keep up with everything.
It really is. It really is.
And I think it gives the intro to what we wanted to talk about. I think you worked on Databricks workflows, and in the past it used to be called Databricks Jobs, if I'm not wrong. And can you walk us a bit on how this product changed? And just for example, for the folks who are watching this recording, like last year, I think Databricks shipped more than 70 features just for this specific product. So can you share with us like how does it work, and also some metrics maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. So the origin story, so to speak, is pretty straightforward. One of the things we do as product managers, as I mentioned, is we talk to a lot of customers. And the story here is that it was soon after I had started at Databricks. I'm based out of Amsterdam, and the first feature I was asked to work on was something called Jobs. And I noticed pretty quickly by talking to customers and looking at data that, hey, this was a really popular feature. That makes sense, right? If you're using Databricks for data engineering, for machine learning, the notebooks are awesome, but then back then we only had notebooks, but then you want to run things in production. So Jobs was the way to run something in production. That made a lot of sense. And what customers told us was that At that time, a job was simply a way of running a notebook or a script on a schedule. You would say, hey, run this at 2 in the morning, and it would run it. It would spin up a cluster, it would run it. It did that really, really well. So it was a very simple feature, and it worked kind of flawlessly. And this, however, was not enough. So customers were coming in saying, hey, I can start by running this, but then I want to build more complicated workflows. How do I do that? So this feature really came out of those conversations. We had about 70 plus conversations, and we talked to customers who were using Airflow and Azure Data Factory and all these different capabilities. And workflows was really an attempt at making something that is powerful yet simple. So one of the things we wanted to avoid was complexity. We wanted to make it accessible to everyone. And that's exactly what happened. So the statistics that I can share are, this is an extremely popular feature in Databricks. We're now doing hundreds of millions of runs per month. So just the scale at which this feature runs is, you could probably call it the world's most popular orchestrator just by straight numbers. It runs, I think, at this point, 14 different types of workloads. So it runs SQL queries, it updates dashboards, it runs machine learning models, it does AI training, it does, DBT project, it does notebooks, it does everything under the sun. And indeed, and that we shipped more than 70 features on it last year. And I can tell you this, that we're going to ship a lot more this year. It's the scale at which the feature works is remarkable. I can't share specifics, but it spins up a lot of compute and it manages a lot of compute for all these runs. Now, the coolest thing, by the way, I will throw out there is that we've added something called serverless workflows. And by the way, workflows we changed the name of the capability because jobs was too much about running one thing. So we changed the name to reflect its capabilities. It's called workflows now. Serverless workflows is super cool. And the idea behind serverless workflows is that in the past, you would spin up a compute cluster in your account. And this could take minutes, right? Now you have to manage subnets and IPs, and you have to manage capacity. With serverless, you just say, here's my workload, and Databricks runs it for you. It's kind of magical. Just makes everything simpler to manage, everything simpler to run. And that's just one example of something we built and GA'd just recently.
Yeah, and just one thing, make sure to watch. We're gonna have an upcoming series on workflows with Prashant. We're gonna walk through all the amazing features, including serverless.
Yeah, no, the serverless is really amazing. It's one of my favorites. The reason is Databricks is able behind the scene to do many smart things with AI and ML just to optimize everything, and make sure the customers can run the fastest or at the best cost and everything. It's going to be super nice. It's going to be super simple for everybody.
No
and
DVR
I must say
management.
all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And I must say orchestrate.
Sorry,
Yeah, go
ahead.
Joseph.
No, I just wanted to talk about you talked a bit about Lakeflow, and you're famous because you're already famous. You did an awesome talk at DICE, and I think this is one of the coolest features coming to Databricks called Lakeflow. I think it has 3 parts: ingestion, transformation, and orchestration. So can you talk a bit about Lakeflow Connect and how it may simplify the customer journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look, the idea behind Lakeflow is pretty straightforward, right? So everything starts with data. Everything you want to do in Databricks or any data platform, you need data. You want to build a cool machine learning model, you need data. You need to do analytics, you need data. You want to do machine learning. Everything is just data, right? And the idea behind Lakeflow is that we want to give you a single place and a unified experience for doing data engineering. And that really breaks down into 3 things, right? That's the ingestion. How do I get all data into Databricks in scalable, price performant way, right? Then how do I transform it, which means clean, filter, aggregate, prepare it. And then finally, how do I build these production pipelines and how do I monitor everything? So, nobody likes to wake up at 2 in the morning. So I can start with Lakeflow Connect. So this has these 3 journeys or these 3 capabilities mapped to 3 different products. The first one for ingestion is called Lakeflow Connect. And this is super exciting. It's actually a brand new product. And Lakeflow Connect is a fully managed zero knobs ingestion capability. It has two sets of connectors. So it connects to enterprise applications, and it also connects to databases. So the idea here is that if you have a SQL Server, you have Postgres, you have Oracle, you have MySQL, today you're sort of forced to either buy a separate solution, and you have to go to IT and purchasing and all that stuff, and scalability. This is actually really hard to do because you're capturing change data, you're capturing it at speed, there's a lot of variability. You have to set up this whole team to manage and run this thing, and not to mention the price of this thing, right? Just to get that data in Databricks. And that what's really exciting is, and I've seen this again and again, guys, is that a tremendous amount of business data, which can unlock hundreds, if not thousands of use cases, is locked up in these databases, right? And these are databases. If you could just get this data out, you could do, whichever vertical you're in, just unlock hundreds of use cases. So that's one part of this. Then the other part of this is there are these ERPs, CRMs, HRMs, right? So Salesforce, Workday, NetSuite, and a bunch of these other systems. They have similar data. It's not transactional data, but sometimes it's data about your customers or about orders. Or this is the business domain data, right? And Lakeflow Connect will make it super easy to get that in. And then finally, I would say, perhaps the third part is unstructured data. Sort of the third repository of data that you want in Databricks is SharePoint, Google Drive, Dropbox, FTP, and this is, unstructured data. And this not only, actually, it's a misconception that this only powers ML use cases. There's a lot of analytics use cases and application use cases that can be powered with this data. Sort of how do you get this data into Databricks? And the magic trick behind this is really, it's not the managed part, because that's a convenience, right? The magic trick here is how do you do this in an efficient and incremental way? All the way from source, all the way to destination. And that's actually what Lakeflow Connect does by working with Lakeflow Pipelines and Lakeflow Jobs.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most amazing features we have. Like especially when you're a new customer and you start with Databricks, you want to give it a try, and the first thing you do is like, okay, now I need to have some data to do something, but oh no, it's on Salesforce. How do it's on MySQL. How do I get the data in? And then it goes into crazy export dump. You have to set up Debezium and some madness around that.
Yeah, so no need for Debezium, no need for an IT consultant to come and do it. You can just set it all up yourself.
Yeah, and so can we maybe deep dive just a little bit more on the three capability you mentioned? So let's say I have a SQL database, maybe. I believe we have Postgres coming soon.
Yes.
So I have Postgres, it's running on the cloud. What do I set up? Do I need to install something on my Postgres instance? How does it work?
No, so it's actually pretty simple. So what we're working on right now is that let's take SQL Server for a second, right? So if you have SQL Server and your Databricks data plane can reach that Postgres instance. And that's actually quite common among our customers because, for example, in Azure, they might set up private link or VPC peering, right? Or in AWS, for example. As long as Databricks data plane can reach that database, and it's actually quite straightforward to set up with Databricks with our security controls, and then you don't need to install anything on your SQL Server. Now, what you'll need to do is, because it's SQL Server, it has you need to run a few commands to enable change tracking on certain tables. If you go to your DBA, they'll say, absolutely, they know exactly what you're talking about. So the database server has to be told, hey, either on this schema or on this table, set up change tracking. And what that does is, it takes, several minutes, you just run the commands. And once that's done, your database starts producing a change data feed. And what we do is, that's it. That's all you have to do. Then you go into Databricks, into Lakeflow Connect, and you just enter the credentials. You test your connection. You choose what do you want, what objects, what tables or schemas do you want to bring over. And you say, hey, I need to put them in this catalog. So it's a wizard. It's point and click, no coding required. And then you say, okay, go. And what we'll do at that point is we'll set up all the infrastructure needed to both efficiently extract the change feed and also apply it into Databricks, to apply that into Databricks in an incremental fashion. If setting up the database, 10 minutes, point and click, 5 minutes, and you're done. And what's cool is this scales. This scales from small installations or small SQL servers. We're running some serious workloads with our customers. So it scales to very large SQL servers as well. And as you said, Quentin, we're working on Postgres, and MySQL will be coming as well. And then there's like a long line of these databases, Oracle and DB2 that are on the roadmap.
Yeah, it's amazing. So the application would work kind of the same, right? We do incremental ingestion, and then you can create like you would end up with a DLT pipeline at the end, I believe, and then you just say, okay, run that every 6 hours.
So first of all, like the data just shows up in the Unity catalog. So these are just tables in Unity catalog. You can read them. You can run a SQL query on them. You can join them, whatever you want to do. So you don't need to do anything else with them. If all you want is the raw data, you've got the raw data. It just shows up magically. And it's kind of cool. It just shows up and it kind of keeps running, right? Now, often that's not enough. Often what needs to happen next is you might say, hey, my Salesforce customer records, there's some data cleanup I need to do. I need to maybe get rid of some nulls. I need to do some, normalize cities and names and things like that, whatever that might be. And that's where Lakeflow Pipelines comes in. So Lakeflow Pipelines is a declarative way to build these data pipelines. And by declarative, what I really mean is instead of worrying about, hey, where do I create tables? How do I orchestrate the data flow between these tables? You basically write queries. You write a SQL query or a Python data frame operation, and you connect them by referring from one to the other. So you create one, then you select from one to the other, and then Databricks figures out the rest. So to take this example of, let's say you have customers and orders coming in from Salesforce. You want to do some cleanup. They're landing in Unity Catalog as 2 tables. What you'll do is you'll go into Lakeflow Pipelines, and you'll just write a couple of queries, and you'll say, make it so. And that make it so is actually magically incremental. So as your Salesforce data grows, let's say you're joining these 2 tables, these joins will be incremental. And whether it's a petabyte of data or whether it's 100 kilobytes of data, you don't have to think about it. So we're making efficient use of your of your infrastructure, and ultimately it costs you less. Pipelines is the way to do transformations.
And I think it's part of the vision you have mentioned, like, and to be honest, it did blow my mind, like when I've seen like, okay, we will switch DLT to streaming tables and materialized views, and we're gonna include enzyme to have this incremental ingestion. Now those features are part of the Lakeflow Connect with the acquisition of Arcion or Arcion. I always struggled. I think you corrected me last time. It's Arcion, right?
Yes.
So with this integration of Arcion to build a new technology, I mean, when you start thinking about it, say, okay, I mean, those guys are really visionary to have this, like thinking to have 3 years ahead of us,
By the way, I will say what I'm really excited about is that, ultimately, the thing that excites me most about Lakeflow Connect, Lakeflow Pipelines, and Jobs is that our goal is to get this in front of more users. Our goal is that you shouldn't have to be a data engineer to do data engineering. You shouldn't have to understand structured streaming and incremental, manual merging, and you shouldn't have to understand Debezium. So in a way, we're kind of going from the high priests of data engineering, and we think everybody should be able to do this. Now, they should be able to do this in a way that is easy to use, it's safe, so you can't make big mistakes with it. It's also cost effective. So these are sort of the 3 promises of Lakeflow as a whole. And I think we have I'm excited because I think we have a real opportunity to bring this to everybody who uses Databricks.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see how Databricks is evolving. I feel like we started as like the super kind of advanced tech companies with Spark,
right?
And now it's like bringing data engineering and data science to everybody.
Indeed, and what's cool, and again, what's really cool is if you think about it as a technology stack. It's not like we're getting rid of structured streaming. Structured streaming is there, except now we're building higher level abstractions. And I think that's really ultimately what's happening in the data engineering space is that we're building on top of structured streaming. So for example, Lakeflow Connect is fully built on top of Delta Live tables. So it uses all the capabilities we have. It uses apply changes into, it uses structured streaming. It uses all the tech that we built over the last 3 to 4 years. It just has an abstraction. And in this case, the abstraction is, hey, it's a wizard. And in the wizard, you connect to a source, and it just brings in the data. It's just still the same tech. And what's particularly cool about it is that you get all the governance that you're used to. You get the cost management that you're used to. We're not building a disconnected product just to get to market faster and help our customers. We're building on the stack they already have.
Yeah. So I feel like if you are a data engineer, you have to be careful about Bilal because he's going to kill your job.
I hope not. Actually, my hope is that I make you a lot more productive. And by the way, just so you know, when I talk to data engineers, they have so much work to do. They're being asked to do more with less. And believe me, no data engineer wakes up and says, "Let me write a lot of boilerplate. Let me write a testing framework. Let me write a data quality framework." They have so much work to do. So when I tell them about what we're doing, they're like, "Gosh, this is super exciting.
Yeah.
I want to be more effective, and I don't want to wake up at 2 in the morning." If you think about it, guys, it's very similar to software engineers, right? Like software engineers are like, well, there are a few who write assembly. Many of them, I write TypeScript. I enjoy writing in high abstractions. It's really that same movement.
And
And I think on top of that, with all the AI assistants, like everything gets easier and easier. Like within Databricks, so I feel like now the assistant is getting really good. I must say, like the first day it got released, I was like, it's not really 100% working. And I tried again, like really tried for a real project a few weeks ago, and I was like, wow, that's really working well now. And same for
big thanks to Weston.
Yeah, thanks.
Right.
Yeah. And so I'm starting to do everything with AI. Like I'm using also, Cursor AI. Like it's so smart also. I feel like it's really making data engineering and data science so much easier.
And by the way, that's,
accessible.
just so you know, that's sort of I imagine that as Lakeflow gets out the door and matures as a product, I'm excited about adding AI. I think AI in the service of removing toil is wonderful. I think
Yeah.
less manual heavy lifting, undifferentiated heavy lifting for data engineers.
Yeah, and all the, so right now I think when you have an issue in workflow, like the AI is going to be, hey, I think I know what's going on, do you want to check that? And they're like, it's so helpful. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do
Yeah,
that. Thank you.
you just need to open the page and go to the assistant and ask question, how can I fix this? And it will go and trigger like some magic to suggest some code resolving, or I don't know, because you forgot a comma, or I don't know, something silly.
Exactly.
And Bilal, I've been using Databricks, I think, since 2017, like when you used to only have Spark. I think
Yeah.
back in that time we didn't even have jobs. I think it was you needed to
I think
orchestrate
you're
this
right.
with the notebook calling another notebook.
That's right. That's called notebook workflows. It's still there, by the way, if it's for backwards compatibility.
And now, like I was at Data and AI World Tour, and now we're able to build a complete end-to-end application just using Databricks. Like for example, you can bring, I don't know, whatever data from Salesforce using Lakeflow, then you can ingest some PDFs or whatever in volume, and then put those, package them in to train a model, and then use a model serving with the Databricks application apps. Databricks apps exactly, to have your own hosted app there, and without needing anything from the cloud provider. Just Databricks
Yeah,
technologies everywhere.
that's pretty cool stuff. And I think absolutely. And I think that's generally, again, these are like higher level abstractions, right? Apps uses infrastructure we've been building for years. Lakeflow uses infrastructure we've been building for years. So it's exciting. I think a lot of things are coming together.
Yeah, and in the past, I think the Databricks, I think title was making big data simple.
That's
I
right.
think I think now it's more making like people's life simple. I think that's really like, and that's like the abstract one is
Yeah.
democratizing access, democratizing data to everyone.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, ultimately, I think all of our customers are, they have very busy jobs, very busy lives, and our ultimate goal is to help them get that sort of inefficiencies and toil out of the way.
And can we talk a bit about Arcion? I mean, I remember when it was announced, it was a massive, was something very exciting for all Databricks folks, because it was the missing piece, like how to ingest data from
Yeah.
other sources. So, how did this integration goes? Like, and how does it work? And is it like, are we revamping all the code or just leveraging their technologies? What's happening there?
Yeah, yeah. So a little bit about the industry, right? So Arcion was actually a Databricks partner, and they were doing well. and we were seeing customers being very successful with them. And they are in an industry sort of colloquially known as change data capture. And it's a bit of a specialized industry because ultimately what they're doing, or companies in this space are doing, is they're in the business of figuring out, let's call them obscure database log formats, right? So databases are not new. They've been around for 40, 50 years or something like that, right? Pretty much every database has supported some notion of a log, CDC log, binary log. There are different formats and they're vendor specific. There is no open source standard. And so the really cool thing about Arcion is, I guess, two things, right? So one thing is they really cracked the ability to read these logs efficiently. So they have a lot of tech, and now we have a lot of tech on how to read these logs efficiently. That's number one. Number two is they really lived this space. So they, databases are, if I think about technology, databases are on the order of complexity of operating systems. They're very complex pieces of technology, and Arcion has success in deploying Arcion and reading from them, so which is remarkable for a small company. So they've really lived the domain, so they know how to do this with Oracle and SQL Server and MySQL and Postgres. It's a phenomenal team. So that's the third thing. Now, what we've been busy doing for the last year is actually integrating them into Databricks. And really that's about making sure that when we give this to our customers, that we can operate at the scale of Databricks. We can operate within the governance boundaries of Unity Catalog. And then we can operate in a fully incremental manner from start to finish. What this really means is sort of absorbing them and integrating them into our platform, something we never had to do when they were a partner. But when it comes to their actual, let's say the Arcion connectors that actually read data from databases, those are fundamentally unchanged because they're battle tested, they're in production, they work. What really we've been working on is making sure that they are fully, because ultimately we don't want to build a separate product. Lakeflow Connect is called a product, but it's really just part of Databricks. Anybody will be able to use it. So there's a little bit of that trade-off that we do in product management where we say, hey, do we go to market really quickly or do we make sure that we build a single product? And we're optimizing for building a single product here.
I think Databricks made, a couple of acquisitions, like the big one, including things like Mosaic. And I feel like all of them worked really well in terms of product and integration. Yeah. It seems to me like I always had the feeling it's super hard because like you have company A, they have their own stack, their own people, their own culture, and then you have to merge them with company B. Everybody has to be happy. The tech has to be happy. Like what's the secret? How do you make it work?
Yeah. Oh, I think it's always hard. I think I give a lot of credit to the acquired company actually in this case, and actually in every one of these cases, I give a lot of credit to the acquiree. Because it's sort of like moving. I had a startup once, and we got acquired, and it's jarring. It's like there's a spirit of joy followed by absolute terror at what just happened because you go from, I'll use a naval analogy. You go from being like a light cruiser, you're very agile, very small, but like a single shell can take you out, to now you're on the aircraft carrier, and there's like 50 ships around you. It's jarring. You're going from something very small to very big, and this order of magnitude change is to the psyche, to the human psyche, is very jarring. So I give a lot of credit to the acquirees in this case. I think they're mature leaders. I think they're seasoned, and they anticipated this change, and they worked with let's say someone like me who's been here for 5 years, and I'm used to being on the aircraft carrier. I think also ultimately though it's about strategy, right? These are strategically aligned acquisitions. All that means is that there's a ton of value for our customers when we get this right. So we all have aligned incentives, and these are founding teams that are excited because we can dramatically increase the scale of their products, right? And ultimately, that's what founders want. Founders want to build successful businesses, successful companies, and successful products. And to them, they just get this massive shot at helping customers, all across, from SMBs all the way to enterprises, the world's Fortune 50. And that's a pretty rare opportunity. So I think it goes both ways.
Bilal, what about the timeline for this Lakeflow product?
Yeah, the great question. So Lakeflow Connect is already in preview. And the way we're rolling it out is that we have a small private preview. It's actually not that small anymore, of several connectors. Salesforce, NetSuite, Workday, Google Analytics. I might be missing a couple, and SQL Server. So these are all available. So if you're interested in using these connectors, reach out to your account team, and we'd be happy to see if you qualify. Lakeflow Pipelines and Lakeflow Jobs, which, by the way, Lakeflow Pipelines is the future name of Delta Life Tables. It's 100% backwards compatible, so you don't keep using Delta Life Tables. Everything will work, and Databricks workflows will become Lakeflow Jobs. We're kind of going back to the jobs name because it actually makes sense now. Okay, so these are in active development. We are looking to start a preview early next year. So end of this year, early next year. We actually have some customers already using these products, so it's actually pretty exciting. It's a very small group. It's in active development. And we are actually rolling some of these changes out, sort of the back-end changes, without a lot of fanfare. So for example, performance improvements, error messages, and things like that. We're just rolling those out. We're not holding those back. But look for towards the end of this year, maybe early next year, for a private preview of Lakeflow Pipelines and Lakeflow Jobs.
So for Lakeflow Jobs, it's going to be the same thing, backward compatibility, which means if you have your
Fully
workflows
backwards
running,
compatible. Fully backwards compatible and fully integrated with pipelines and fully integrated with Connect. So if you're building something in Databricks workflows today, it'll just show up. It'll just continue to work. You won't lose any history. You won't need to do any migration. It'll just work.
yeah.
All right, cool. So start using DLT now. Start using Workflow. Well, they should be using Workflow because it's such an amazing product, and you will be good.
And just for your information, like we had a talk like a few months ago or a few weeks ago, I guess, with Armburst. So DLT, we knew that it was a little hard to debug, have some issues. Those issues are being fixed. Like now we have unified DLT pipelines with those like two concepts, streaming tables and materialized views with enzyme to make sure that you have this incremental processing. We have now the possibility also to publish to multiple catalogs and schemas. We are getting rid of the keyword live. So, and also simplifying the debug experience in the notebook itself. So the experience is heavily simplified.
Exactly right. Yeah, the experience is massively simplified, and I think ultimately what we learned from Delta Life Tables was that it solves a very hard and really valuable problem, and we're just laser focused on making it very simple. We're laser focused on making it available to everyone. And again, this goes to hey, you shouldn't have to be a data engineer. You shouldn't have to understand Spark to debug a Delta Life Tables pipeline. So in the Lakeflow pipeline, we're giving you an amazing authoring experience, an editor for this, with built-in debugging, built-in error handling, assistance, and all that. It should be as simple as a notebook, really. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and we're betting a lot on DLT because like vector search is backed by DLT, MVs.
More than us, by the way, thousands of customers are using it very successfully. It's a very successful product, and it's just usage is ramping up really quickly. So now is actually a really good time for us to work on this.
Yeah, I think it's the best way to give it a try, test it. If you had tried it 2 years ago, the experience has been completely revamped. So just give it a try. Trust me, you're gonna be amazed. And a lot of things have been heavily simplified, like SCD, slowly changing dimension. A lot of things have been done in 2 lines of code instead of having to write complex structures just to handle some tiny stuff.
Thanks a lot, Bilal. That was an amazing discussion. I'm so glad we'll have an improved full data ingestion, data Lakeflow Connect, Lakeflow transformation, Lakeflow orchestration, everything within one product. It's going to be so helpful for so many customers. Thanks for your time, and we hope we'll have you another time soon.
I'd love to. Thank you, guys.